Yo, what is up, family? Welcome back to the Urban Concrete, the only spot where we keep it 100, no chaser, and build the foundation of the culture stone by stone. Today, we re-diving deep, and I mean deep into a story that's been shaking up the digital streets. We re-talking about the price of self-respect and the breakdown of how some folks are cashing in on the so-called Black Infinite Money glitch. We're analyzing the archetypes of the jester and knight, and how the system uses these roles to keep the racial order locked down. Strap in, because we're about to explore the history, the linguistics, and the straight-up grift behind the arguments. Let's get it. So, check it. The sources break this down into two main players. First, you got the jester. This is the entertainer, the one who makes fun of their own blackness for that white laughter and those white dollars. Think of the folks on TikTok or IG doing the absolute most, leaning into stereotypes just to get a chuckle from people who don't look like us. But then you got a more dangerous character, the knight. Now, the knight isn't here for laughs. The knight is the moral enforcer. They align themselves with whiteness to defend the very systems that are stepping on their own people's necks. While the jester makes blackness look laughable, the knight makes it look like the problem. They preach discipline, respectability, and obedience, telling the world that the issue isn't systemic racism, it's just us. Now, don't think this is some new age internet beef. This play is old. It's got roots deeper than a 200-year-old oak tree. The sources take us back to the plantation. Back then, you had enslaved people who were elevated, not because of merit, but as tools of control. They were rewarded with scraps of comfort for policing other enslaved people. After emancipation, the role shifted. You had figures like William Hannibal Thomas, or even physicians like Samuel Cartwright, who pushed this fake science called drapetomania, the idea that a slave wanting freedom was a mental illness. These were the original tokens, providing white audiences the permission to believe the hype that racial hierarchy was natural or even divinely ordained. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the knight evolved into the face of respectability politics. We talking about the Bill Cosbys and the Shelby Steeles, the poster children for middle-class assimilation. Their whole argument, if you just dress right, talk right, and act moral, then and only then will your humanity be accepted. Let's analyze this, fam. The knight's biggest argument is personal responsibility. They love to say, stop blaming the system, look in the mirror. But here's where the argument falls apart under the concrete. The sources point out a massive double standard. When white folks are struggling to buy homes or make ends meet, do you hear conservative pundits telling them they are trying hard enough? No. To their white base, the problem is always policy. It's about cutting taxes or changing the system to help them. But for black people, suddenly the system is perfect, and if you're struggling, it's all on you. The knight uses anecdote over evidence. They'll say, I grew up poor and made it, so why can't you? While ignoring the fact that black homeownership has barely moved in decades and systemic barriers like exclusionary zoning are still gatekeeping the bag. They take systemic violence and translate it into individual failings. Let's look at the modern flip. The sources highlight Brandon Tatum. Now, initially he was trying to do the intellectual sellout via button-up shirts, slacks, the whole highly educated aesthetic. But he realized he wasn't catching that Candace Owens wave. So what did he do? He pivoted. He went for the who dude who had his eyes open persona. He drops more curse words, rocks baggy clothes, and talks about being from the streets. Why? Because the market for the intellectual black conservative was already saturated. But the market for the reform thug, the guy who speaks their language but preaches the conservative gospel, that was wide open. It's a performance. It's a calculated rebrand to tap into a different demographic of both black and white audiences. He's telling white people, see? Even the hood ones agree with you. And he's telling black people, I used to be like you, but I saw the light. It's a grift, plain and simple, dressed up in a different outfit. So, how does this all tie into the Black Infinite Money glitch? It's the monetization of this performance. The jester gets paid for coonery, and the knight gets paid for condemnation. They create content that goes viral because it confirms biases. The outrage from the black community fuels the algorithm, and the praise from their target audience lines their pockets. They're farming engagement by selling out their own people. The sources call this the price of self-respect, the idea that you have to sell a piece of your soul, a piece of your community's dignity, to get a seat at the table. But here's the reality. It's not a real seat. It's a high chair. You're propped up as long as you say what you're supposed to say, as long as you perform your role. The moment you step out of line, the moment you stop being the jester or the knight, the white dollars dry up. So let's break down the linguistics of it. Words are weapons, and these figures know exactly how to use them. They'll use terms like thug or ghetto to describe black resistance, framing our fight for justice as simple criminality. They master the art of the dog whistle, using coded language that sounds reasonable on the surface but carries a deeply racist message to their intended audience. The goal is to delegitimize the entire black experience. By controlling the narrative, they control the perception. They're not just disagreeing with us. They're trying to erase our reality. They are attempting to gaslight an entire community into believing that the chains we see aren't real, that it's all in our heads. Here's the takeaway. We need to be able to recognize these archetypes. See the jester for the act it is, and see the knight for the danger they represent. It's not just about a difference of opinion. It's about a fundamental betrayal. They're not just playing a character. They are actively participating in a system that harms us. They provide the black friend cover for racist ideologies. And the so-called money glitch isn't a glitch at all. It's a feature of white supremacy. It's the reward system for those willing to uphold it. Our power comes from understanding this game and refusing to play. It comes from building our own platforms, telling our own stories, and supporting those who are genuinely fighting for our collective liberation, not their personal profit. Don't fall for the performance. Stay woke, stay focused, and understand the true cost of that easy money. That's all the time we have for today on the Urban Concrete. The conversation doesn't stop here, though. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who are the modern-day jesters and knights you see out there? Let's talk about it. As always, thank you for tuning in and helping us build this foundation. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a drop. Peace.